Sissy That Talk.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week of Sissy That Talk with Velvet Valhalla. I am Velvet Valhalla, joined as always with co-host Alex Woodside.
Hello, sweethearts and enemies.
I'm going to move the curtain away because we're still trying to figure out how we want to do it. You might get a UK show after this, like in this episode. We might be doing one long UK show, or there might be a separate UK show that you can see in the feed before this one, maybe.
Unlikely, though.
Very unlikely. You're probably going to be listening to all this in one big block. So we are covering both the US and the UK shows. So if you don't want to be spoiled with either of those things, then maybe you shouldn't be listening to podcasts that'll spoil you on these on said things, considering how deep we are in UK.
Bunch of jerks. Don't get spoiled by us. We
Yeah,
warned
don't
you.
get spoiled by us. We don't want to hear you complain. Nobody's ever complained to us about spoiling, but I think we do a good job with the spoiler warnings. I don't even know what a non-spoiler version of a Drag Race podcast would be.
I don't know, but I do appreciate the World of Wonder Instagram account giving a strong spoiler warning with countdown now. I really appreciate that.
There's even a stronger one on the World of Wonder Twitter account. In order to see the finalists for Drag Race UK, you actually had to go and tweet a reply to the post, and then it would open it up and allow you to go and see who the finalists were. So you had to consciously make an effort in order to be able to go and see who the finalists were. So that was
This
kind of
is the future.
It is the future. And speaking of the future is now. The future is today. The future is season 13 of Rupert Paul's Gender Illusionist Derby. And here we are talking about it. It is the makeover episode.
Oh,
We did not get a makeover episode in UK.
no,
Because
disappointing.
Disappointing, very disappointing. But we did get one here in the US, and I think that we have a few things that I want to talk about before we jump into
Yes,
the
let's
actual
please.
stuff.
I'm going to go out there. I'm just going to say this right now. This
Okay.
may be my favorite makeover episode ever.
Really?
I thought it was great. It might be, I think hands down it's my favorite episode of Apple Pie this year.
Huh.
I
That
really
actually surprised me.
Yeah. Do you disagree?
I don't. Maybe just because I'm soured. Maybe
What
the
are you
end of this
sour?
episode soured me a little bit.
Why you don't like you didn't want Olivia to stay?
Well, I don't know. I'm so conflicted. Like so far with what happened in UK last week, just setting me off, and then this week it seems like the show wants to set me off some more.
Why? How in what way?
With the elimination, okay. So this is what I want to talk about in this. Okay. I feel like there's one big thing that was missing from this episode that I like out of my makeover episodes. I do like having a group of people come in and be foreign to the queens.
Yes.
Because then you learn something about each other. It's a blank canvas. It's interesting that way. And I missed that interest in this episode.
I agree, but I thought in counter kind of point to that, I thought the idea of the queens having to mimic each other, I think exposed a lot of relationships between the queens in an interesting way, but also I think made each queen a lot more personable because everyone was dealing with this idea of like what am I? How do I impart that to someone else? But also how does someone else see me? You know what I mean? And I think that process was really interesting, and I felt a lot more connected to basically all the queens kind of through that process.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was an interesting take on it, and I think there was no better way to do it given the conditions that they were in.
No, I think they did a really smart thing, and it worked out really well. One thought I had, before we get too much into your conflict of emotion, is because of the double save, I do wonder if they bumped this up a week because how that double save affected the numbers.
Unless the double save was forced. Unless they
of
knew that they were going to do a
all the double
double
saves
save.
we have ever seen, this one definitely felt the least forced.
Yes, it came down to who was in the bottom. But there's a weird thing about this, right? It's that the producers have the opportunity to pick who gets put in the bottom in general. They can look at it and say, these are the people who are going to be put in the bottom. And if they ever get into a situation where two queens are in the bottom that they don't really want to be there, there's an easy way for them to mechanically go behind the scenes and then make that happen where they're just not there.
For
You know
sure.
what I mean?
But I mean, I think the timing, planning for a double save in the season, I think is one thing, and I think very easily we can say they probably intended to have a double save at some point this season. But the
Yes.
timing of the double save, I don't know. That is not something I think that is predictable. And because of that,
You're right.
right? I mean, like, did they, say we have to have the double save before episode 10 in order to keep our numbers on track for the makeover episode, which requires an even number of queens?
To me, I think that this is almost null and void considering how they planned on doing the makeover challenge, right? Like they can plug the makeover challenge in and say the makeover challenge happens when we have 8 queens. So it's 4 and 4.
Okay.
And regardless of where that is, that's where the makeup challenge ends up being.
No, I disagree with that concept though.
Why?
Because that requires you to move everything down potentially, right? Where like that if it had been last week, which it would have been,
yes,
had they not had the double save, right?
Yeah.
That means that would Snatch Game then have been this week, or would Snatch Game have been earlier? You know what I mean? Right? It's a complicated piece, and that's why I kind of bring it up, because I do think it's interesting. I think there's a little bit of dynamics that you have to consider when one of your challenges absolutely requires there to be an even number of queens, and you also know that you want it deeper into the season. And that's the other reason I bring it up, because we have 7 queens left with 8 queens going into this episode, and that is not usually the number of queens that are doing a makeover challenge.
Yes, but I also think you could do a 7-person Snatch Game.
You could, definitely.
I think what it might have ended up happening is if that double save happened, the butterfly effect would have been Snatch Game being moved before the makeover, because you can accommodate having an 8 or 9 queen Snatch Game as opposed to an even queen Snatch Game. Because I think that the Snatch Game has never been an even competition. It's always been an odd number.
I think so too.
Like, because it always fits better by having, the even number at the top and the odd number at the bottom in terms of framing in the panel.
Yeah.
So as long as it happens during an odd number, then that's when it happens. Anyway, we're arguing about things that we can never really know about. My question becomes, in this particular makeover challenge, what are our criteria that we are looking for to judge them on? Because normally the criteria is like, okay, you have this person, they've never been in drag before. How much can you impart yourself into them? They're a blank slate. They're learning as you go. This one is like, I'm going to try to teach you as best you can about who I am, and then you are going to do an individual showing of who you are, and then we're going to be judged as a pair. That's my big crux. I hate this judging as a pair thing on this. I think that is very stupid.
Fair. I can see where you're coming from, but having said that, I mean, they have to work in tandem. It is more difficult to judge them in tandem, but in order to get to where they're going, they have to work in tandem. Because I think, this is very much like a typical makeover challenge in which, the goal is to create family resemblance, right? The other person is never going to look exactly like you.
But I don't think this challenge this week, though, this season, was doppelganger, not family resemblance. You were trying to go and put somebody in your drag. Go to the closet, put them in your drag, make them look like you, make them act like you on the runway. And even in the judging panel, they said, the contest was, go down to the prison line and try to pick them out of a lineup. Like Rue and Michelle made a joke about that. So on top of that, then, my question is, are we judging the result of the makeover challenge on whether or not they looked good or whether or not they looked like the queen they were trying to look like?
But I think it's both.
But it's not.
But it is.
Well, but it could be. It could be. Because Tina Burner's makeover onto Rosé was
great.
Awful. It was very, very bad. In fact,
bad.
in my opinion, should have been at the bottom because of how bad it was. But the problem was, for me, is that it still looked like Tina Burner because I don't think that Tina Burner's makeup skills are all that great.
100%. But that was part of it. I mean, like, I think they did a really good job because I felt very much in agreement with the way that the judges came down this week. Because I do feel like Rosé and Tina Burner, though,
which are our first group. Let's just start talking about the queens then.
Yeah.
Because I've broached the subject. Let's go.
So Rosé definitely does not look very good in this Tina Burner outfit for a variety of reasons. Number one, her face is beat all the wrong way.
Yes.
Number 2, this outfit is way too big for her.
Yes.
And they did not do a good enough job bringing it down to her size. She looked a lot better after the reveal, I would say. If she didn't do the reveal, I think they would have been in deeper trouble because she basically looks like she's wearing a bag in this dress.
Yep.
And she looks a lot better when she does the reveal into the lingerie look, which, you know, it actually looks pretty decent on her, aside from the fact that her face is beat all wrong.
Yes. And I could, but that's my problem with this, right? Like, what I found hilarious about this in their group in general, I think that they were my favorite group to watch as this whole thing was going on, because like the section where they were trying to go over the runway walks, I thought was friggin' hilarious, because Rosé's out there trying to make the walk entertaining.
Yes.
And then Tina Burner's like, no, you're putting too much Rosé flourish on this. And then Rosé's eventually just like, well, fuck it, I can't be graceful at all. And you see this in the way that Rosé is walking down the runway. She's literally just stomping her feet as she goes.
Yeah.
And it looks so awkward and wrong.
Yeah.
But that's why I asked the question, is like, what is our judging criteria?
It's a dynamic thing, right? So what this group excelled in was that they really did get one another. Like, this reads Tina Burner all over. And she's sending her, it feels like someone's sending her up, but the joke is that Tina had designed this look for her. And then Tina doing Rosé is pretty good. Also, you know, it feels like, you know what I like about it? It feels like they're doing drag impressions of each other, right?
Okay.
It's drag upon drag, wherein, like, you know, Tina's not giving you exactly what Rosé would give you, but she's giving you the Rosé-isms through a Tina lens, which is funny. And it's the same thing with Rosé on Tina, right? She's giving you Tina through a Rosé lens, which is like a harsh critique of Tina Burner, basically.
Yeah.
She's leaning into all the things that she finds fault with Tina. And that's kind of the gag, right? So it's definitely like they're not winning, but they are succeeding in the competition. They are looking like you're reading the other character on them. And
so
that is part of it.
Your opinion then is that you can walk out on the runway looking busted so long as you're fucking in character with who you're trying to impersonate.
You're not necessarily going to win doing that, and they didn't. Right?
Fair enough. Let's compare and contrast this with the group that they put into the bottom, which is Denali and Olivia Lux.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to say this was a fucking robbery.
Why was this a robbery?
This is why this whole fucking thing was a robbery. Because Denali did a good job on this makeover.
Okay.
Olivia Lux did not sell this makeover.
Yes.
Olivia Lux did a shitty makeover onto Denali, and Denali tried selling a shitty makeover, and then Denali goes home in a lip sync that Denali did better in.
I will say that this outfit is a boot, though. This is not a good-looking outfit.
The Tina Burner outfit was a boot look, too.
Sure, but it's a Tina Burner outfit, so it's judged by different criteria. It's judged by different criteria. It is. This is not.
You can't even decide on your criteria. I'm trying to define what our criteria is on this whole.
You can't define it. Look, it's mimicry and it's beauty, and it's a mix of these two elements that get you to where you need to be. There's no like exact formula. It's a magic concoction. It's what works for the pair. And the reality is that this pair of Denali and Olivia just did not work well together. They just did not give either person any magic to work from.
I still think that if you're looking at it from a challenge perspective, everything that Denali brought to this group worked, and everything that Olivia brought to this group detracted from what was going on.
Sure, Olivia did categorically worse than Denali did in this group, but they were a group working together every step of the way. It's not like they were like working each in their own corner and then coming together at the end. No, this was both of them together the whole time. So for anyone to say like, oh, this is all on Olivia, it's crazy. The two of them sat there in the mirror for hours doing this to one another. If Denali was having a problem with the approach that Olivia was taking to this, then she should have said something. But you know what? She didn't. And why didn't she say anything? Because she didn't see it. She couldn't see what was wrong with their makeover, right? And so it is on her. Because despite the fact it is Olivia's job to create her look on Denali, and Denali's still the one that has to go out there and wear it and sell it. So if you can't see the fact that you look nothing like Olivia in this outfit, like nothing, and she doesn't look bad by any stretch of the imagination, I would say that Denali actually looks better than Olivia did in the swap outfits, but that Olivia read more as Denali than Denali did of Olivia.
I think Olivia's makeover on Denali is awful. Like, the makeup that Olivia did on Denali is a travesty.
Look, here's the reality. It does not look so good. Many things wrong with what these two did in this. They just did not meet any of the marks of the challenge. And you can say that Rosé categorically looked worse than either one of them out there, but she did nail half of the element of the challenge, which was embody Tina Burner. She did that.
You're not wrong about that, but that still goes back to what I'm saying, is that you could look busted then.
Yes.
It's not about looking good. Looking
it's
good
only
is
half
is
about
a
looking
side
good,
effect.
because now we're into the winning team, all right? Hit play, baby, because this is Simone coming out as Utica.
Yes.
In an extremely well-chosen outfit on Utica's behalf, because, I mean, this reads Utica. This is the kind of crazy nonsense that she is into. Super high concept, unexpected design in the way that it's pulled off, but looks absolutely fantastic at the end of the day, right? And Simone is out there living that fantasy, and she's looking very good doing it, right? And then you have Utica come out in an outfit that there's under no circumstance would Utica wear, because she's so uncomfortable with the idea of appropriating Black culture that she literally tried to run away from this outfit through the whole first part of this episode. Ugh. Which I thought was great. That was great television. And then she comes out and she totally owns it. She owns this outfit. She looks fantastic in this. And Simone beat her face so well.
I'm so impressed.
So impressed.
Legitimately.
And then Utica also gives that Simone face. Like, there's like this eye, like this, she just shoots the judges these looks as she's going down the runway that just read so hard Simone, and she looks fabulous doing it. And that's why they won, because they nailed both elements of the challenge.
Now, I'm not arguing why this team should win, because this team, they should win.
Yes.
Gottmik and Candy Muse tried arguing that they had the hardest time because their body shapes didn't match, which was
fair.
Yes,
but let's
fair enough criticism.
Let's just talk about them as it's going, and we can do overall. We can finish this argument out in the end once we've discussed everybody.
Fine.
Because first we have Gottmik coming out here in an outfit that Candy has obviously worn before. And you know, they have the gap tooth in there, and Gottmik looks absolutely fantastic in this.
But Gottmik does not at all look like Candy Muse.
Not even like a little fucking bit. I mean, she's got
not
some like
shred.
attitude that she's trying very hard to sell Candy, and I can see that she's trying to sell Candy. I don't think she ever totally gets over as Candy for 1 second in this runway.
No. Because even with her trying to pretend like she's Candy, she gives more energy than I've ever seen Candy give in a walk.
Yeah, she's like giving like 300% the energy that Candy gives.
Candy's trying to describe her walk, and she's like, I'm trying to remember the exact quote of it, but she's like, I give like a really attitudinal walk, or some she gives like a word, and I'm just like, no, you don't. You kind of like you give me one of the most lukewarm walks that I think I can think of this whole season, and I don't even know how you try to like translate that over.
And then Gottmik's makeover on Candy, I am sorry for all you huge Gottmik fans out there, is the easiest makeover anybody had to do. Easiest. Yes. By a long shot. That signature Gottmik look, you just slap that on fucking anybody's face and it's going to read Gottmik.
Yep.
Like,
you're not wrong.
It's not hard. I mean, she does a great job of it. I'm not, like, she's created a really fantastic signature look. It's just, that's not challenging in the same way that it is for Simone to put the Simone face on Utica. It's like not even in the same category as far as I'm concerned. I mean, like, again, I'm not trying to insult Gottmik, but she's literally painting a clown face on Candy where fucking Simone and Utica have to do fucking beauty mugs to each other.
I don't think that anybody is making the argument that Gottmik and Utica are not the deserving winners of this whole challenge, because they are.
I was so concerned throughout the episode that they wouldn't win. I was.
So was I.
But which is why I enjoyed because it was a real roller coaster. Because I was all like, for God's sakes,
because you care about Utica. And I wrote her off last week, and I continue to write her off.
No, and you're continuously going to be wrong about that. But because
Still,
they clearly did the best in the competition, the both of them did.
And I don't disagree with that, despite the fact that I wrote Utica off. I'm just not interested in anything that she does.
Because you're
and
wrong.
Everything that she did this week doubled down on the fact that I don't like her, and I don't like her perspective.
I don't understand what your vitriol towards her is. Explain to me the vitriol this week.
I don't like it.
What was it this week that set you off?
Alex, I've cooled down on it so much. I don't know. I think I was just so hot last week on UK that I was hot this week whenever I watched this happen. And it wasn't until they were like, hey, everyone's going to be judged in pairs. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, why is everybody being judged in pairs?
Apple
That's
Pie,
the dumbest
and Apple
shit.
Pie has to fucking, do a 27 episode season. Look, we had fucking 8 queens left at this point in the competition.
Sure.
We're not deep enough to be out of group challenges yet. Think about that for a second. 8 queens is a lot of queens.
8 queens is a lot of queens. I'm not lying. I don't know. There's a culmination of things that have been happening inside the last 3 or 4 episodes of the season that have just made me get to this episode and be like, if there was ever a point in time to go and do double save, it would have been this week.
It would have been this week.
Because I don't think that anybody did all of that bad.
Well, and
right?
I mean, come on. The lip sync also was totally fantastic. They both were fucking giving, and way more so than the Candy lip sync that she was saved for.
It was Simone.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that kind of puts a bitter taste in my mouth.
Yes.
Denali is a queen that I've been watching on the show and I've been enjoying as she's been going, because I think that there's a big problem, and it's the biggest problem of season 13 of RuPaul's Drag Race, is none of these queens are growing. Everybody in the show right now is as good as they were when they walked through the runway for the very first time. I don't see anybody evolving. I don't see anybody going out of the comfort zone, even though Utica kind of did.
100% she did. That's what made this week interesting, was that Utica had a storyline that was developed last week, which totally bit her in the ass, and then came back this week, and she had to deal with it, and it's a real issue. It's a real concept that she was struggling with, and she had to get over it. That shows real growth. That was really interesting. I loved that.
Like I said, I already wrote Utica off. So
but that's your mistake, because you've put up this block in your brain, and so now you're not going to be able to enjoy the show.
It's not so much that I put a block up in my brain, is that the show did everything to show me that Utica was just doubling down on what happened last week, and it wasn't until she came out on the runway.
Doubling down? No, she wasn't doubling down. She wasn't choosing to have this problem. This was a problem of her perspective.
That's fair enough. Doubling down is the wrong term.
Right? And last week she could not work through it and she lost. And this week she did work through it and she won. It's a great story. It's really interesting. And it gives a lot to her character. And it gives growth. And I agree. I think you're right. I think one of the biggest problems is that everyone on this season is at such a level that being on this show is not bringing growth to their drag.
Yeah.
And when you compare that to UK, where the opposite has happened, where everyone's drag has been stepped up, except for maybe Lawrence, but we can talk about that later. But that's what's made that season so great to watch in comparison to this season, where everyone seems to have came in at a plateau and they're all just fighting at this plateau.
Yeah. And that's kind of boring to me, which is I think the biggest problem with season 13. I don't know, it's just like, this was a good episode, but I just feel like I was missing a lot of things that I like out of the makeover episode. I was missing the dynamic of having somebody else inside the workroom. We did get to know each of the queens a lot more, which was nice, considering, like, I guess it makes sense. If we have 8 queens this deep in the season, and you're going to pair them off into 2 groups of 2 to go and do this makeover challenge, then a lot of that screen time that they would use to go and getting to know this extra person gets flipped around and then put back into the actual show. So you gain a lot more value out of the personalities of each of the queens that are left. But there's just something about the makeover challenge that when I'm looking at each of the queens dressed as each other, is just not as exciting to me as looking at
I
them
can see
take
that.
somebody off the street.
I can see that, but it wasn't possible. And as we discussed
No,
off the
I
top
know.
of this, I think they did the best possible job under the circumstances.
And I agree with you on that. They did do the best possible job under the circumstances, but that doesn't mean that you have to forget everything that happened previously. And you could still be disappointed in something, despite the fact they tried their best.
For sure. But I think this episode delivered on all fronts. Again, I'm going to double down on my opinion, which I think is this has been the best episode of the entire season.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. I'm so cloudy on this episode.
I'm supposed to be the one with the brain fog, not you.
This had nothing... Okay, this is why... I think this is the problem with Pandemic recording our podcast, too, is that whenever we were recording it live, you would come over, we'd sit down, we'd watch the entire show, and as soon as the show was done, we'd go downstairs into the cave, and we'd immediately start recording the podcast. So,
Yes.
boom, fresh.
Yes.
If we were doing that, our conversation would be much different, because then I wouldn't have had a chance to go and process everything as much as I have now, because I was really hot.
So the opportunity for me to write your thinking isn't happening soon enough in the process for you to change direction. I understand your problem now, and I agree with it. The problem is you get set in your ways and become stubborn, and I'm not able to correct you as much as I generally have to.
I have a fiery temperament, and that's what I feel like makes the podcast good. And if I have a lot of time to go and ruminate and think about it, I can overanalyze everything and then temper myself down to a more controllable level.
So what you're really saying is your problem is that you're not able to compartmentalize your thoughts on the show because folding ravioli only allows you more time to think about it.
Don't even start. Maybe that's why I'm so emotionally drained, because I made fresh ravioli yesterday and it took every ounce of my being. Maybe that is why. Here I am. I don't know. What I do know is that as much as I like Denali and as much as I was enjoying watching Denali throughout the show, it was inevitable for her to be leaving the show sooner rather than later.
Yes.
I feel like she left earlier than she should have, and I feel like she left under pretenses that were beyond her control, even though there was a level of her control that was there.
I disagree.
And you disagree
that it was
with
beyond
that.
her control. I think she did not assert enough control on the situation, or was just too blind to see what was going on. And I think the latter is actually probably much more accurate. I think she just doesn't see why she doesn't look like Olivia. Right? And I think Olivia doesn't actually look that much like Denali either, other than the fact that she's wearing a stupid figure skating dress.
Well, they put the pictures side by side on actual Queen wearing the outfit and then makeover Queen wearing the outfit, and the makeups were very similar. The eyebrows were very similar. The eye makeup was very similar.
You know what? Now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I think you're right. It is pretty similar. But you know what maybe the problem was overall? Is you have two queens who have a very meh aesthetic doing a makeover on each other, and they both came out meh, and everyone else, even the ones that don't look good, aren't meh at all. There's nothing meh about Tina's makeover of Rosé. That's not meh. Maybe it's bad. It is very, it's a lot, though. It's not meh. You can't be like, eh. So whoa, Jesus, what the fuck?
You're right. When you're looking at Rosé, you have a strong opinion one way or another.
Yes.
You're either hard gag,
yes,
or you're hard toot.
Oh yeah, you're like this is unbelievably bad, or you're like this is so bad it's hilarious.
Yes, or that, which is. But again, this goes back to what I was trying to get at: is what criteria are we trying to go and judge these things?
But it's dynamic, so maybe they do look similar. More similar to each other, but when you're standing up on a stage with all these people who have very strong aesthetics and have done a very strong job of transferring that aesthetic to someone else, when your middling aesthetic is middlingly applied to another middling aesthetic person, you both come out looking like, nothing interesting. And ultimately, at the end of the day, whether or not you've met the challenge, if you're not interesting on that runway, perhaps that's the biggest problem of all.
Fair enough. My last thought, Rosé.
Yeah.
Do you think that she's wearing enough orange, red, and yellow to be in a Tina Burner outfit in this first outfit that she's in?
I mean, both me and Taylor, while watching it, agreed that she should never have turned down Tina's original outfit. Because that crazy fire mermaid thing was amazing. And the thing that really breaks my heart
Was it?
is knowing that because she was offering it up in this competition, she doesn't have a set plan of wearing that for any of the runway looks, because she was going to throw it away on this challenge. And that kind of breaks my heart a little bit, because I want to see whatever crazy nonsense that look was that frightened Rosé. That looked like a lot.
Legit, the Rosé and Tina Burner dynamic was my favorite thing on the entire episode. Like, I enjoyed every single bit of it because they had like a really good frenemies vibe.
Oh yeah.
The entire way through, where Tina Burner was trying to say, like, Tina Burner's like, I hate pink, and then Rosé's like, I hate everything that Tina Burner wears. Like, it was so fun, and I missed that from almost everybody else.
That's true.
Like, I mean, I guess you got a little bit of really interesting shit going on with the Simone.
Yeah, you had a different type of
situation.
Interesting stuff going on.
Yes, but there was a lot of trepidation that was around there.
Yes.
And if you care about one of those queens, then I can understand how that would actually be entertaining. I don't know. It was just very weird. Let's talk about power rankings, though. Our power rankings this week, really straightforward or not? It's weird.
There's an element that we have not discussed yet, which I think is very important, and that is the weight of this particular challenge. We both know what that weight is that, in general, most of the time, with a few stupid exceptions, the person who wins this challenge goes on to be in the finale.
Yes.
Now, this is the first time that we have 2 winners of this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think this is an interesting moment. Is this going to push the 2 of them into that finale? And I think the way that we've ranked these 2 queens previously does suggest that they will be there, and their general, how well they've been doing overall in the competition. And I also think this is a big boost to both of these queens who do really need it at this point in their individual competitions on this season. I think that the 2 of them need to be up here on these power rankings because I think it does hold a lot of weight. It means a lot to win this one. And both of these queens are going to ride high off of this win.
Yes. I just don't think that either of these queens use power in the back of the workroom quite well. You know what I mean? So I don't think that they're like the top of the power rankings. There's 2 other big things that happened in the episode that we haven't discussed yet. One of them is Candy Muse popping off in front of the judges because somebody decided to go and look her way and then try to give some sort of criticism because you were obviously not going to shit on your own partner.
Well, or yourself.
Or yourself, right? Like, what are you going to do? As soon as, like, in a social dynamic this way, the first person who goes up and says, I think this person did bad, the easiest thing to do in order to save face is just to agree with that person and be like, well, you know what? Rosé said it first, so I was just agreeing with Rosé.
Well,
you know, like,
and
it's a coward's way out.
It's totally a coward's way out. And, I mean... And I think the reason that Candy kind of spouted off so hard is because I do think standing up there on the stage, despite the fact that she is the most fiery, I think she is the easiest target. Because she was saved in the fashion that she was saved in, she is living on borrowed time. And Candy has spoken about this.
Yes.
She knows she can't be anywhere near that bottom ever again or she will go home. And I think that's probably true.
Yes, I agree. That is true.
And I mean, not that anyone else seemingly on the judging panel agreed with it, but I think me and you agree that Gottmik does not look anything like Candy out there on the runway.
Gottmik does not. And they even said, hey, Gottmik, can you take your glasses off and then let me see your face? And everyone's like, you're beautiful. Just like, yes, I'm a woman today. and I'm it's like, this is the other big makeover that makes me ask, like, what is our criteria? Because there is no Candy Muse face on Gottmik. Gottmik just has well done makeup.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
That's shitty. That's not.
Which is
that's
why
not
I was
good.
sweating because the judges were living for the 2 of them. And I was all like, if these 2 win, I am going to be upset.
Yeah, but there's no way that they were going to win.
I mean,
there's no way.
You go back and watch that. They got the most out of the judges.
Of course they did, because they have so much personality when they're talking to the judges, and they're so personable that way that they always get something very positive from a judge interaction.
But back to the point is Candy was not having any of that. She knows she was being called out because she is the easiest target out on that runway right now because of the living on borrowed time scenario. And she is not going to let anyone step on her for that reason.
And they gave her the Batman excuse in Untucked.
The Batman
They were like,
excuse?
yes, they were like, I called you out. I called you out because I knew you could take it. Yeah. At the end of The Dark Knight, where he was like, you could chase me, put the blame on me, because I could take it. It's the Batman excuse.
I'm not the scapegoat that you deserve, but it's the one you need. Or whatever that line goes.
I'm not the hero Gotham deserves. I'm the hero that Gotham needs. In Christian Bale Batman sounds a lot like Candy Muse. So there's a lot of parallels here.
But I agree. The way that she spouted off here is big. I mean, and Candy's a big force in that runway in general. And the fact that she literally put Olivia in her place for bringing it up. And then somehow that did not turn into fireworks in the Untucked was kind of mind-blowing.
Because Denali used the Batman excuse.
Yeah.
Because Denali was like, oh, Candy, you're so strong and powerful. I knew that you could take any criticism that could be thrown at you, which just feeds directly into Candy Muse's ego because she is what? Arrogant.
Arrogant. Like I
Arrogant.
said, I've called it before. I'm just bringing it up again now. That shit is going to be in the sound collage at the beginning of Untucked next season.
For sure it is.
So Candy's sitting at the top of these power rankings.
Yes, in this weird thing where she's got a lot of control in the workroom, but she's also a cornered animal.
Yes.
It's this very strange dynamic that she has going on that's very interesting to go and watch because of those factors. Now, I think it's like Candy, Simone, and then Utica.
I would argue Utica then Simone, just because I do think, though neither one of them uses their power that effectively, I do think that Utica is more often at the center of drama and conversation than Simone is. And being that center point for those issues, I think gives you more power than just being a strong competitor, which is basically why Simone is on this list at this point.
Yes. So you know what? I'll give you that. I'll give you that because an episode is going to come in the very near future where Utica is going to leave, and it's going to be a celebration for me, and it's going to be a heartbreak for you.
No, it's going to be a heartbreak for you too, because it's going to destroy our calls for this season.
No, it won't. We didn't put Utica in our top 4.
Did we not? 3. What are we, insane?
You have Utica as your dark horse.
Of course I do, because she's the best.
And
when I call a dark horse, they fucking last.
You shut up. You shut your goddamn mouth. But besides, my dark horse left this week, so I get to pick a new one.
No,
I get
no second dark horses.
Dark horses.
I don't know where you got this idea that you can do that. Who was on the bubble, goddammit?
Let's talk about the bubble, because I think that there's only one person in clouds at the moment. And that's the second topic that we haven't really talked about, is that everybody on the panel all fingered at Olivia Lux.
They sure did.
Olivia Lux, you are the one who should be going away.
Yes.
You are the one who did the terrible makeover. And they were all correct in saying that.
And she was very deflated. This was a very deflating week for Olivia. And for a queen that I think we had a lot of high hopes for, I don't think she's been delivering.
She certainly hasn't. She certainly hasn't been delivering them.
So
and here we are.
If she doesn't, she's going home real soon. Real soon.
Perhaps.
After this week, I feel like she's more at risk than Candy is.
To go home? Probably. I would think so. In terms of queens that I think are in danger of going home, there's Utica first.
Get out of here.
And for real, though, queens that I think are in danger of going home are Olivia Lux, are Tina Burner, and Candy Muse.
Yeah.
I think that is the bottom of the pack. Maybe in that order.
Yeah, and like Tina was on our bubble last week, but I feel like even more like next week, like fuck Tina, you need something. You need to do well at some point in this competition.
I don't know what it is. I just... She's the most bland queen.
She's the most
out of every
bland, hyper-colored, hyper-personality queen I think we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's just very confusing to me as to why she's just not translating well on camera.
Yeah.
It's just, she's just not giving anything. She's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. She's white bread. I don't know, white bread's kind of nice sometimes.
Wow, that's exactly right.
It's hard to say. Either way, Olivia Lux, I think Olivia Lux should be on the bubble.
I agree.
It's going to be a big thing. It's a product promotion challenge next week. They love the Make the Queens Promote a Product challenges.
I mean,
the
do they get
challenge.
to pick the products? Because if so, it's going to be a ketchup or a mustard for Tina.
It's a soda. It's a soda pop.
Oh, ketchup and mustard flavored soda pop then.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, no, it's hot dog. It's carbonated hot dog flavored water.
Oh man,
that's what she's gonna get.
All right. Well, that's apple pie.
That is apple pie. I'm thinking. I'm feeling pretty confident. If you are into a large discussion about Drag Race UK, you're about to listen to it in this episode, because we are going to be talking about Drag Race UK in totality just after this small pause. And by small pause, I mean...
won't register at all as a listener.
No, you won't. No, you won't. It's basically you're going to hear me introduce it like I'm introducing a whole new podcast, and I'm not. We're stopping for a minute. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's talk about UK. We're going to break this UK discussion up a little bit. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to have a small discussion about this episode. Alex, normally when we did these super shows, the real reason why we did them is that there was always that break episode between when studio finished and when the finale ended up happening. And those were always just the reunion specials, which... there was either the reunion special or just the recap episode, and they're boring as hell.
Sometimes the reunion was great, but it was definitely not a guaranteed good time, and there wasn't usually much to discuss other than one person maybe losing their shit.
Exactly, yeah. So and maybe this is a relic of an old format that we don't have in Drag Race anymore, but either way, I enjoy going over the entire season and talking about, the best looks, which is really what we're going to do. That's going to be the crux of our whole conversation. But we're going to start by talking about this episode because it was the top 4 episode.
Yes.
And it was a top 4 acting challenge, which is not something that traditionally happens in Drag Race. Normally, the penultimate challenge is some sort of a music video challenge that leads up into the crowning. But then again, we still have an episode next week where everyone has to be crowned.
Yeah, we don't know what we're going to get next week so much.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to be there, though. I'm excited to anticipate the not knowing what's going to happen next week, really.
Yeah. What'd you think of Beast Enders?
You see, I have no frame of reference for EastEnders, so it makes it really hard.
True.
This was an interesting episode because it showed a lot of queens having difficulty, but the end product didn't, relay that difficulty.
Well, it was interesting because what happened was that, basically Lawrence, who had the most difficult time during the filming, was not put in the bottom because ultimately, as we've seen time and time again with Lawrence is charming and connects on camera in a way that kind of gets her out of a lot of trouble. So despite the fact that she could just not get her lines right, she could not get out of her head, when she did say her lines, what she said was infinitely more appealing than what Ellie and Tace were doing the entire time flawlessly. But that flawless thing just ultimately wasn't that interesting to the judges.
Mm.
And that's
true.
Interesting. That is a difficult situation to be in if you're competing against Lawrence, right?
Well, I think, when you started describing her that way, it reminded me of somebody who won Drag Race, Season 2's winner, Tyra Sanchez.
Yeah.
Tyra Sanchez, had a lot more difficulty, but whenever it came time for her to be on the runway in front of the judges, and whatever was presented, never showed what Tyra Sanchez, the struggles that she went through, or what she put the other queens through, or any of that kind of stuff. None of that was ever translated to where the judges were. And I feel like we're getting a little of that with Lawrence, and I think that it would be even more hidden if people in the judging panel weren't also directing the challenges.
Yes.
If it was an independent person directing a challenge and not judging the challenge as well, then all of that might have gone just directly over top of their heads, which is
true.
Very interesting as an idea in general.
Yeah. If we have any UK listeners, I'd love to hear what they thought of BeastEnders and if it was a quality send-up of the long-running sitcom.
It felt like it.
It did feel like it. I had an okay time with it. I don't know. I mean, maybe I just don't like the idea of an acting challenge this kind of late in the game. Because I think we've discussed it numerous times. At the end of the day, the writing is never going to be that good out of the RuPaul's Drag Race writing room.
Yeah.
And the acting challenges are most successful when they get a little chaotic. When there's when it's kind of a mess, it's kind of sloppy, and there's a lot of story to be told in the surrounding elements, which there was this week to some degree, but I think that chaos was really missing. It didn't feel like chaotic. It felt like a bunch of people struggling to do something interesting and a bunch of other people not struggling to do something not interesting.
Which ultimately came together to make something that was fairly interesting.
It was fairly good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Even with us without the references, we still kind of got what it was. This is seemingly, EastEnders seems to me like the UK version of The Young and the Restless.
Yes.
right? So that's interesting in and of itself. Anyway, that was the acting challenge. I want to see more personality challenges near the end of the show because that's what interests me, and I think that is what a winner is based off of. Is like, how can you go and you take that personality that you've shown on the show and then translate that into a successful career after you win. So that's why I am not really into the idea of an acting challenge here at the end. But then again, do I want to watch them sing? I don't want to watch any of these queens sing.
No.
So
I mean,
glad
it's
it's an
probably
acting
better
challenge
than
at
watching
least.
the Americans sing.
I don't want to watch any of them sing.
No.
Like, the fact that they have to sing at all, and the fact that it seems like every queen is pressured to go and put out some sort of club track. I think that is the biggest fault.
Okay. Let's talk about the other interesting thing this week's episode before we move on into the super elements. Let's talk about this runway, which I thought, I was really excited because the idea of kind of giving reverence to Panto on this English stage makes a lot of sense because there's a big tradition there, a lot of influence on queens that have come before in the UK scene are really coming out of that tradition. In Toronto, we have a Panto that goes up every year, and it's a big deal. So I'm here for it, and I had fun with it, if not a little confused by some of it.
Well, do you have any frame of reference for Panto? Did you ever get taken to Pantos?
Yeah,
when
I
you
would
were
go
a
to
kid?
Pantos. I would go to Panto every year.
See, I never did. I
Okay.
never because I didn't grow up around Panto, and my parents are not live theater people. Like, we would go watch movies. We wouldn't go to live events.
Then I'll surmise it this way. In Panto, there is always a man in a dress.
Yeah, the pantomime dance. Like, I understand Panto now. It's just I have no warm feelings from growing up.
Yeah.
But I understand the concept of the pantomime dame.
Yes.
There is always going to be a big, campy man in a dress who's
campy.
Obviously a man in a dress.
Yes.
Who's on stage just for laughs.
Yes.
That's what they're there for. That's and it's the pantomime dame.
Yes. And it comes out of a long
Dame Edna.
tradition of theater of men playing women. Anyway, it's a very interesting. I was glad to see that they kind of chose to give some reverence to it. I mean, let's talk about the outfits.
Yes.
I think, Lawrence, this is a great category for Lawrence. I think Lawrence actually fits into this category extremely well. In fact, if Lawrence decided to go make a career of being a Panto dame in touring shows throughout England, I think she would be very successful.
I do too.
Yeah, I think that's, I'm here for it. Yeah, I'd buy a ticket.
Yeah.
So that outfit, it's great. I love the knickers that you can kind of see.
Yes.
Super great. All her jokes about her waist size, I lived for.
Yeah. It's great. It's a wonderful outfit.
She wears a wonderful outfit. Tace definitely does not understand the Panto dame, though does understand Panto to some degree because fairy tales are the bread and butter of the Panto. This does not read dame even a little bit, though.
But to me, I think that there is two elements that to my understanding, that all Pantos have. One of them is the pantomime dame, the big dame. The other one is the ingenue.
Yes.
Like the attractive, marketable girl who is in there to bring everybody in. And I feel like that is what Tace is trying to be. Tace is trying to be the foil to the dame, which would be traditionally played by, a traditionally attractive person,
but
as opposed to trying to be the dame.
I think she needed to go because she brought in too much of the kind of the hard Panto makeup, and I think in order to pull that off, I think it's a hard concept to pull off out here on the runway, that kind of play. But I think she needed to go more fish in order to accomplish that.
But I think if she would have went more fish, that RuPaul would have had more of a problem with it.
Well,
because there are such things, like they said, Rue and Michelle had a bit of discussion about it. Rue, admitting to not having as much knowledge about pantomime, and there are pantomime fairies.
Yes.
But Tace is trying to go and meld two things together, which is, I think, a lot of what Tace's drag is all about. Anyway, let's move on. There's not much more to say about that. To Bimini Boom Boolish.
I mean, the judges lived for this look a lot more than I did.
I mean, okay, in terms of the category, I think that this is a great interpretation of the category because she does feel like a pantomime dame.
She does. She does.
Things that I don't like about it don't factor into the fact that she didn't do a good job on the challenge, and she does look like a pantomime dame.
100%. I think my biggest problem is I did not like her execution of the makeup. It felt kind of sloppy to me, especially when
I
you
was
compare
kind of okay with it.
I mean, fine. But I think when you compare it to Ellie's and you compare it to Lawrence's, it feels a little too messy. And yes, you can get away with that kind of in a Panto Dame kind of scenario, but this still is Drag Race. You're still on the runway.
That's fair enough, but let's talk about Ellie then, because I feel there's one thing that bothers me in drag, and that's whenever you wear a crinoline that is too small for the skirt that you're wearing.
Yes.
And it bothers me so much when I'm looking at this, because this is a fantastic outfit. It's fantastic makeup, but that crinoline being like seemingly 3 feet up from where it should be totally just ruins this.
Well, it
one.
does exactly as it appears. It deflates the outfit, right?
Yes.
It in every way, in every sense, the outfit is deflated by that short crinoline. And it's a real shame, because I do think her outfit and her makeup have all the makings of being the winning outfit out there on the stage, but it's somehow ruined by a very simple mistake.
Yeah, and she does have the most feeling of a pantomime dame. Like, I could see her being that character on the poster, because there's two kinds of dames in pantomime. There's like the dame that Lawrence Chaney's trying to be, which is sort of like the kid-friendly, the kids like that dame. And then there's the, ugly stepsister or the queen of the land kind of dame. The villain dame.
Because the other element of Panto is that the crowd is supposed to react, right? You want boos and hisses, you want cheers, that kind of stuff. And this is a character you boo. This is what she's playing, Queen of Hearts.
Yes. And Lawrence, on the opposite end of the coin, is playing the character you cheer, which is why she has "It's Behind You" on her ass when she turns around, because that's part of the gag. And for anybody who doesn't understand Panto, look at us fucking explaining it like we're Panto geniuses or something like that.
Panto spurts.
Either way, what did you think about the people who ultimately ended up in the bottom? Because I was concerned for Lawrence this episode.
I was so concerned for Lawrence. That's what I was saying. Like the dichotomy of kind of how this episode played out towards how it was judged, I think was a little difficult to reconcile. And I understand, because I can get like the fact that Lawrence comes off extremely well. But the episode really built it up that it seemed like Lawrence was going to be in the bottom. And then to not have her in the bottom was kind of surprising.
Yeah, it almost felt like the decision that was made at the end of the episode was more about the overall breadth of work in the show, right? Like, they were picking a top 3. They weren't picking an episode winner.
Yes. Which is, again, why I think it's kind of weird that you do that on an acting challenge where kind of the results seem a lot more straightforward. Right?
Yeah, it's very strange that way. But either way, the lip sync happens. Tace wins the lip sync. Mm-hmm. Which surprised me, because as soon as I saw them both in the bottom, I'm like, no matter what happens, I think Ellie's going to make it through. I think Tace is going to be the one that's going to sashay away. And when Tace was announced as the first one, I was like, oh my God. Like, it makes sense because you did win the lip sync.
Your world was rocked because you knew the vitriol I would throw at you if Ellie didn't make it into the top.
But I knew that Ellie would make it to the top just based upon, like, she hasn't won a challenge, but the judges have heaped praise on her the entire time.
That's true.
And they're at a point in time where is this a double save? Maybe, I don't know. It's
not a double save, because obviously they're going into the finale. This is not a last minute decision to have 4 queens in the finale.
I think that they can always make it so that you can have 3 or 4 queens in the finale. I think that's just the way that the show is designed now.
I don't know.
It's not hard to add.
We'll see next week, because it really depends on how they decide to have this finale play out. Right?
That's true. I mean, there is still going to be a finale next week. There's a finale challenge. There's a big song and dance that's going to end up happening.
I mean, they didn't give us a lot by way of information in that kind of next week on, but we do know all the queens are going to be there. Sister for whatever reason has decided to do a remastered look on her stupid blue face, even though Ahura already one-upped her on that. So I don't know what she's playing at. I really don't. There seems to be you know what? I'm worried.
Okay.
Well, because there's going to be a song and dance number, and if there's anything that Lawrence does very poorly at, as they've already alluded to in the next week on, is song and dance numbers.
Yeah, I think what we're getting is like the traditional last in studio episode of Drag Race, except they're just going to crown somebody at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. I don't need another kind of the season 12 finale It was fine because they were problem solving, but it was not a choice I would make if I was thinking ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So we got a lot of content to get into. We're gonna make our prediction for who we want to win at the end of this, because you don't front load it. You have to give a payoff at the end.
That's right. But what we're gonna do, listeners listening all 7 hours of this episode.
Listening, gotta listen to all the hours of our episodes. Let's start talking about the series in general. Let's just like a couple of broad stroke highlights before we start talking about the looks of each one of the queens, which is going to be like the meat of every super show that we do, because it's always about the looks.
What I think is nice about this season is that we don't have to put very much effort into kind of trying to figure out which challenge was the best.
Yeah, that's very true. The Ruru Vision challenge.
I mean, it's legendary.
It's so good.
Legendary.
I mean, I can only imagine, because they've already announced that UK Season 3 is going into production.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like they're about to shoot it. Like, the turnaround on it was ridiculous. They might even be shooting it right now.
Doubling down on pandemic shoots? That's crazy.
I think that they want to get back on track. They wanted this season of Drag Race UK to air in September. That was always their plan. So they're continuing with the plan of having it air in September, which is a smart way of going about doing it. So they're at least in pre-production right now on the next series of Drag Race UK. That's very exciting. I'm wondering if Ruru Vision's going to become the legendary challenge of UK.
Well, I feel like they're going to have to deal with it. I mean, like, they're going to have to at least try to one-up themselves, and they will fail because you cannot bottle lightning like that.
That's true. You cannot put lightning in a bottle. Somebody famously said that one time about something. Now, that was like the best challenge. I think one of the best things that I really enjoyed about this whole season of Drag Race is just the runway themes. I know this really segues into talking about the queens a lot, but we had some fantastic runway themes, and I was just so excited about them.
It was great. I mean, it became, I think about halfway through the season, we kind of realized what was happening, and that they had just created the best run of runways we had ever seen.
Yeah. And if you think about it, if they were trying to go and have this be a 10-week series that started in somewhere around mid-September, a lot of these runway themes would have just like hit the holidays as they were going down. We would have got our Halloween theme monster mashup challenge around Halloween. Like all the challenges, they just would have worked out.
We don't they don't do Thanksgiving, so there was no turkey challenge.
I guess I don't know what I'm saying. Sometimes Maybe I'm just trying to hang on here, Alex. I'm just hanging on this week.
That's how we roll.
It is how we roll. Do you have anything else you want to really add about this? Because it's such an atypical season of Drag Race because it got split in half.
Well, there is
such a difference.
That's the other thing about this season. There will never be another season like this ever, in which there's this kind of break. There's some obviously you couldn't see this one coming, so maybe
we hope there will never be another season like this, because if the circumstances that made this season end up the way it is happen again, I don't want to live in that world.
No, that's
true. That timeline.
That's true. And I think for me, one of the big topics of conversation overall, and we'll get into it more, is the tale of two queens, the pre-pandemic and the post-pandemic versions of themselves. And I think that is most pronounced in Lawrence Chaney, though also in Sister Sister to some degree. But I think overall, in terms of the story of this season, it is Lawrence before the pandemic and Lawrence after the pandemic. And I think, that it's very interesting. And we'll discuss it kind of when we're talking about who we're going to pick and the reasons and whatnot. But to me, I think this season will always be remembered for having someone who is doing so well and just dominating the competition, and then something like this comes along and just changes the whole landscape.
Yeah, I also just think, looking at it, because we just did our selects for the best looks of the entire season, there is a huge ramp up in the amount of looks that we ended up putting into our tab, our consideration list, as soon as the 7 months later happens. Now, that is something that happens generically in Drag Race, because queens tend to go and evolve a little bit through a season. So there tends to be better looks at the tail end, but not to this degree, where the level of what they're bringing on the runway takes such a steep upturn on a very small period of time.
Well, I think we just get into this. We start talking about the queens, and let's talk about the only look that we pulled out of the first episode, which is Ellie Diamond's Dennis the Menace Dundee look.
Yeah, this was a look that was supposed to be inspired by your hometown. Supposed to be like a throw up to where you came up from, which was a very, apt way of trying to introduce every one of the queens. It was also a 3-look episode. So usually on a 3-look episode, we get something. Like for God's sake, Violet Chachki's legendary spin around the runway, into a look that everybody's seen 1,000 times. That came from the first episode.
Yeah.
To think, but we only got one, and that's this Dundee look from Ellie Diamond, and it's only okay.
It is only okay. I mean, it does kind of really set the stage for the Ellie Diamond cut, which is these kind of like pants, like these assless chaps that she wears many times throughout the season.
It's a mermaid skirt assless chap thing
combo
that she has. Yeah, just very strange that she thinks that this is the way.
I kind of love that she's landed on this very bizarre bottom as her signature look.
It's one of those things that's drag fashion.
It's 100%
because you never see it anywhere else.
No,
but this is what drag queens do.
Well, but I just
for whatever reason.
I just like that I think this concept of this cut really kind of says a lot about Ellie, and she had an interesting journey, and we'll talk about that. But she is a look queen at the end of the day. But a very specific, like she, at some point in her young life, just landed upon a very specific set of cuts that she wears for everything, and she always looks. Well, I'm not going to say always. She generally looks quite good in them. Not a lot of people can pull this ridiculous assless chap skirt thing off, but she does.
Sometimes.
When she does, it's great. And then other times,
it's true.
She's some sort of weird wolf creature, and it's like, what?
Either way, I think we're gonna discard this look because we have 20 looks, and we're gonna whittle it down to 10.
Yes.
So I'm thinking that this one's got to go. So
I agree,
it's gonna go. It's gonna go away. Now, the other Ellie look that is from early in the season is from Surprise, Surprise, where Ellie came out and gave us the surprise of being pretty much the entire cast of The Wizard of Oz.
She was all the friends of Dorothy.
Yeah, and it was a good time. And exactly what we wanted whenever we were, at least whenever I looked at it. Whenever she first walked out, I said, you know what? This is not going to be a really great look unless I see all of them. And that's what I got to see. I got to see all of it. Do I also consider this one of the best looks of the season? Not really, because I didn't really remember it as much.
It's not, but it was great. And it really high concept. And again, speaks to kind of Ellie's kind of like interesting take on looks.
Yes. Also from Surprise, Surprise. And this is also a surprise to anybody who's listening. Because we're talking about Ginny fucking Lemon and her surprise look when she went from one dress and revealed another dress that was the exact same dress, except the hairy arse was out in the second one, but you didn't realize that until she turned around, and she's wearing platform Crocs.
I mean, it's
the most disgustingly interesting thing.
I love it. I think this look just is everything that was great about Ginny. Like,
I agree.
It's so great. You know what? I will say though, this blue makeup around her eyes is an excellent choice in this outfit. What a good contrast.
I agree.
And it shows how smart she is. And she does have a command over her look, which I think perhaps she doesn't get credit for because she's not by any stretch of the imagination a look queen.
Yes, and this is going to be surprising, Alex. I want to keep it on the list.
I'm here. I'm with you.
Okay. I didn't think you would be. I thought you'd be like, no. Okay, we're keeping Ginny Lemon's going to stay on at least for the first pass. Next up, we have Miss Lawrence Cheney in her first appearance on our list. Now, this is from the what was the exact challenge? This is
Who Wore It Best.
Who Wore It Best? Yeah, in the challenge, they were given a box and they were teamed up, and they each had to go and make something from the box, and they were head to head with each other, team-wise. And this is Lawrence Cheney's gold look. This is really showing that Lawrence knew how to go and make anything
look great.
Really go and fit her.
And fit her. Yes, fit her. I think that's the key point here, because I think this is a great outfit to look at for the pre-COVID Lawrence Cheney, because she is quite slim in this outfit compared to where she ends up later. But all of her outfits still fit her perfectly down the road. She obviously went through everything and made sure that it was tailored fit. And as a big queen, I think this is one of the things that makes her so great, is she's not afraid to go tight. She always cinches. She knows how to create shape, the right kind of flattering shapes for her body. Very, very intelligent. And I think this look is great. And this is week 3. And so her and Ellie were, facing off against each other because it was a versus.
Yeah.
And Ellie lost, but Ellie also looked really fantastic in her gold outfit. And this was the moment that we decided to put both of these Scottish queens up onto our top 3, despite me regretting it later and now being like, obviously we put Ellie in our top 3.
I'm the prophet who called it. I called it like episode 1. I knew it was going to be between these two. Either way, this is great. And what makes it even greater is that we're going to put it on the best looks of the season, and it was made in studio.
Yeah.
And this is the first of at least one more made in studio outfits that are going to make it into the top list. So it's amazing. Next is Monster Mashup.
Now, this was, I think, the most disappointing looks episode for you in the history of looks episodes.
What are you talking? You're just trying to pull my leg.
Well, I mean,
just trying to pull my leg.
This should have been 15 incredible looks here.
It's true, but at least we got a bunch of really great looks out of this.
This is like your challenge specifically. Like they catered it to your specific desires.
Yes, it's so good. It's almost like if they did a purple and studs challenge.
Yeah.
Like if they did like a purple and studs challenge, I would be a pig in shit. I would absolutely love it. But now here we are. So Monster Mashup, take 2 monsters and mash them together. What brilliant. This is fucking brilliant.
It is
it's
brilliant.
Like the genius of these people who are on this show. Next up is Ahura, and I can never not talk about how great an Elvira look is on anybody. And this is Elvira in the movie in Las Vegas, but a zombie, and she looked great on this. This is when I started to really start enjoying Ahura in the show a lot more, because this look is so good. I love this look. The picture we have of it is terrible.
It's bad.
But the look itself is fantastic.
It is a pretty good look. I'm not going to say that it's my favorite by any stretch, but I do appreciate it, and it does not need to be eliminated on this pass.
Yes. Also, from Monster Mashup, is Lawrence Chaney giving a weird... I think that you could just stick with saying... It's Bride of Frankenstein meets Leatherface.
Yes.
But that's not what she described it as. It was like Bride of Frankenstein and Leatherface and Hannibal Lecter and all these different things. But this is fantastic.
This outfit's so
Absolutely
good.
love this.
It's so
it's
good.
Fantastic.
It's like the blood stains on it are all bejeweled. It's just great. And
I love
it
it.
looks good on her. It's so smart. I love it. How could you not?
Now, this next outfit is an excuse for Alex to talk about Tia Coffee.
Because how do you not love Tia Coffee? I think Tia Coffee, it's heartbreaking. Because if anyone in the history of this competition was given an opportunity that they squandered, it's crazy. Think about it, right? So Tia Coffee comes into this competition and she walks in. She's like, I don't give a shit about how I look. That was kind of her attitude, which is obviously the attitude she's kind of built her whole kind of drag persona around. And Rue spends a lot of time trying to break that idea down. And the biggest disappointment of all time is you have this queen who's extremely talented, so watchable, so interesting, so likable out there, but who has this one flaw in that they're not confident about how they look and is unwilling to glow themselves up, despite the fact that they would look fantastic if they did. And then there's a 7-month break in which that person has the opportunity to figure out how to fucking do that and then come back on this show. And before the 7-month break, she had no chance of winning. She did not have the closet required to win. After that 7-month break, there was an opportunity for her to be in a winning position. If she had taken that stuff and been able to really internalize it and worked towards the goal of being a great looking queen out on that runway, combined with her amazing personality, I think she would have made it to the top 4. And it's the only time in the history of this competition where that would have been possible, where someone came onto this competition without the requirements to make it to the top 4 and were given an opportunity to fill their closet and come back and win. And she didn't take it. And there will be nothing more frustrating than that for me. And this outfit really encapsulates that, you know? It's not a good looking outfit, but it's the best looking she was on this show. And this is her Monster Mashup look. And I don't even know what she's mashing up.
She's trying to be, I think she's trying to be like a voodoo priestess and an Egyptian goddess.
I mean,
think that's
they're
the
almost
idea.
the same thing.
They're still mashed.
I mean, okay.
If you want to talk, Alex, if you want to talk about squandering, if you want to talk about giving an opportunity and then not being able to go and have it, our last look for Monster Mashup is Veronica Green. And Veronica Green is giving us this strange Medusa babe pig in the city look, but it's still fantastic.
Now, if
like, Monster
anyone
Mashup
took this
4
concept, to the extreme, it was Veronica. She was all like, I'm going to mass up Medusa with a pig. It's not even a monster. It's just a pig.
It's a pig, yeah. No, but it's a talking pig. That's what makes it monstrous.
Babe. She just had a very different perspective on that film.
She just had like really bad childhood associations while that movie was happening at the same time. It just didn't work out. My favorite thing about this outfit isn't just that this outfit is fantastic, because it is. It's the fact that she had the most heated discussion in the entire series.
Yes.
Backstage while having all of this on. So she's trying to defend herself and getting mad at everybody around her while wearing a pig nose.
Oh.
It was amazing television. Monster Mashup, Alex. What a great runway theme. Let's move on.
So now,
7
this
months
is
later.
the COVID break. This 7 months has suddenly elapsed, and everyone has the opportunity to redo their closets. And that's the thing that no one is ever going to have that opportunity again. You get to redo your fucking closet mid-season? Insanity.
Yeah.
Insanity.
Yeah. It's craziness. The first look we're going to talk about is Ahura, giving us Day at the Seaside, which is the runway theme, a bag of chips on the seaside
You're going
realness.
to call her bag of chips.
Bag of chips on the seaside realness. I didn't even realize until I looked at this again that she had a headpiece that was a bottle of ketchup on top of it.
It's incredible. In fact,
this outfit is so good.
The ketchup was my favorite part of this outfit because she made ketchup look so appealing. Ketchup has never looked more appealing than it running down her shoulder.
It's not just that. It's that we've seen so many queens do this like latex, this rubber latex thing. And it's always like, I'm trying to do snow and icicles, and it always looks like somebody just came on your face.
It's so weird why they... And so it's like, she's decided to ketchup, and it's like, yes, ketchup, that works with this.
That works. And you know what? And the great thing about it is it's like, it's very flat in terms of the way that it was molded on her face as well. Because the other times you go and you see somebody do these rubber latex looks, there's always like texture they tried to put into it,
bad texture,
which makes it more look like a cum shot.
Yeah, bad texture.
So... here we go. Good job, Ahura, on finally doing the liquid latex pour down look and making it look absolutely spectacular. This might be one of my favorite looks of the entire season.
Well, yes. This has to stay not only for it looking so good, but because it was such a point of conversation, because Sister also wore basically the identical concept outfit, and it is not good. It is not flattering and did not make the list.
No, not at all.
Yes.
It was a thing. Day at the Seaside. I forgot we put this in here. I'm so glad we did. Ellie Diamond, Day at the Seaside.
So this is as close I think we've come to someone pulling a pure furry act on the runway. Because it basically, she's a seagull, and that's a seagull in a bikini.
Not basically, she's a seagull. She is a seagull in a bikini.
Right down to she has like the coverings for her shoes.
Yes. Yes. We were discussing on whether or not, like, we were talking, like, maybe this is one of the worst looks of the entire season.
Ugh.
And I'm like, no way. This is not one of the worst looks of the entire season because we laughed about it the entire time.
Ugh.
It's like, it's probably one of the most off-the-wall looks of the entire season.
It's like one of the, it's next level. Like, she's operating in the fifth dimension here. This is a fifth dimensional look.
Should it stay or should it go?
I mean, let's just keep it around because, I mean, like...
Because we're laughing so much
it's just such a wonder.
We're getting so much joy out of it. Yeah. I think that should be a factor.
It should be.
Is it, like, did the outfit give me joy?
And if this makes it all the way, I think we'll be the only list coming out of Season 2 of UK that includes...
Don't you fucking threaten me like that, Alex. Don't you threaten me. Lawrence Chaney. Day at the Seaside. She's dressed up as a life preserver.
Yeah, and so I mean,
post-COVID,
I think
Lawrence.
The thing to note right here is, she's gained quite a bit of weight at this point, but she has tailored this outfit. It does not fuck with her. She still looks great in the outfit. It's still tight.
Yeah.
She's adjusted her hips, and that's the kind of big story for me in terms of what she did to her aesthetic post-COVID, is that she adjusted her hip pads to account for the change in her body shape. And that's why she's able to maintain this really high level of aesthetic. It's because she just is very, very smart about how her body appears on the stage.
Yeah, I think this is a great look. And also, I think it's worth keeping on here just because of the difference in the COVID, the COVID of it all, the break of it all. We have Tace up next. Now, Tace was actually kind of a hard queen to come up with looks.
It's interesting because she should have a lot more looks than she does. I mean, like, this is, I don't know.
You feel, okay, that's the thing, though. You feel like Tace should have a lot more looks that are notable, but when you look at them, they're just really not all that
interesting.
Yes, exactly. Like, a lot of the times, they look good from the front, but they fall apart when she turns around. Or, there's like, she didn't take the concept quite far enough.
Yeah, I think that's one of my biggest problems with her is that she never really runs all the way with the concept, right? So this is like she's like a net, I guess.
Yeah, she's a net.
But like, where's the salmon that she's dragging behind her, or like what, like? Well, you
want a dolphin in here? You want her to be dragging a dolphin?
Yeah, like get a little bit ridiculous. That's drag. Drag. You gotta get a little bit. If you're gonna come out as a net, you have to be a little bit ridiculous, right?
She's full of starfish.
Yeah, but the starfish bikini is not out there.
I like this outfit though. It is good, even though I don't think that it. Like, I agree. There's a step that it can go further, but this is a very good outfit.
It is, and she looks very good in it. It's just not going to make it all the way. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Alex, what is the runway theme of the next?
It is prehistoric.
Prehistoric. What a genius theme, Alex.
Yes, we love this.
People are thinking on a different level than we are. And we start with Ahura in this look, which is fucking great. I love this look.
Bananas. She really, really went all out. I know I take a lot of joy in you just not being able to hold on to a dark horse in this competition.
Yep.
But I do feel like it's kind of crazy that Tace made it over Ahura to the final four.
Yes. That's another reason why I was so upset about it.
Yeah. Because
like it was a Sophie's choice situation, because either we were going to lose somebody that we predicted, or we were going to lose my dark horse. But like, take that factor that right out of it. It's like Ahura has been on such a different level than Tace has in the competition. Like, the only thing that I think Tace takes over Ahura is personality.
Yes,
and the fact that Tace really did narrate the entire series.
Yes,
and.
Well, like, and that translates into the competitions as well. Tace does better in the competitions because she has more personality. Ahura's personality does not translate well.
Yeah, but in terms of a fashion queen, in terms of drama, she brought so much to the competition.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting a little off topic, but I mean, the two of them are tightly joined at the waist, like literally living together through the 7-month break. And so it's hard not to compare them. But when you kind of break it down to this concept of like Ahura looks better out on the runway because her outfits are more interesting, they're more developed, they're better cut. All those elements of her outfits are better. But Tace has a more interesting personality. It's like, okay, that is a good reason. But then you put Tace up against Lawrence, who is like one of the strongest personality queens that have maybe ever walked the runway. Her personality has walked her all the way through this back half of the season where she has not performed well. What is Tace really offering? So that is a question moving forward here, and I don't want to delve too deeply into it, but it's sitting there in the ether, and it must be considered, because this Ahura look is so stunning. The fact that we aren't getting her in the finale almost feels like a robbery to us, the fans.
A little bit. I agree with you on that. We've said a lot about Ahura, and I can keep going on, but for in the sake of time, let's move on, because we have Bimini in this challenge here as well, giving us Bacteria.
Bacteria. What the best take on this concept we possibly could have gotten. And I don't think the judges appreciated it as much as I did. Because it's like prehistoric, and basically everyone kind of went a Flintstone type look.
Cave person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's all like, no, pre-man, baby.
Yeah.
Earliest life forms. This is where I'm at.
Well, if there's one thing that we know about Drag Race, is that historical references just go over the judges' heads.
Yes.
So if you're trying to go and be something that is, just is so back in history, the judges don't get it, then this is what you end up with. You end up with Bimini coming up as a bacteria, and everybody keeps calling her an amoeba.
Yeah.
Like what kind of a slur is that? I thought we were past this kind of bullshit in the world that we're in today, calling somebody who's clearly a bacteria an amoeba.
Look,
it is a load of shit, and they should really
you cannot pigeonhole Bimini into a single cell.
That's right. Either way, this is fantastic. The way that she sold it, the way that she walked down the runway. Really, I think this was Bimini's coming out party.
Yes.
Like, we were talking about where is Bimini's coming out party? Where did we kind of go and miss that? It wasn't until the 7-month break happened and she came back that she picked up her drag a lot. And I think that is something in our coverage of this season in general. We kind of overlooked Bimini's, ability to use that 7-month gap. We were talking about that a lot with a lot of other queens, but because Bimini has always done like either very well or just well, it never became part of our narrative.
Well, we slept on
Bimini
the whole season long, and we were called on that, I think, a couple weeks ago.
But rightfully so,
yes.
Because before the 7-month break, go in and take a look, at least at the lookbook of the kind of looks that she was delivering. Her level of runway was not at the level it was after the 7-month break. She was doing some janky-ass looks. Go look at her Monster Mash look, where she's a Pamela Anderson demon.
Yeah, not good.
It's not good.
Yeah.
But she did step her shit up in 7 months and started delivering some really serious stuff, especially in the back half of this season. And I'm going to go more into that whenever we start talking about other things in the show. Taste, though, in pre-historic, this is probably, would you say this is Taste's best look?
I mean,
it's wild to say that because it's so off the wall, but we only have two Taste looks up
best look
here.
for her because she did the most with the concept with this look. I don't think that this is a particularly fantastic look, though. When you break it down to the elements, the makeup's really fantastic. Everything else is just kind of okay.
I think it's a lot better than you're giving it credit for. We're not looking at a great picture of it in motion, the way that she sold it, and the idea of it. I think this is really great. And she's got bone fingernails, for God's sake.
Bone fingernails are pretty great.
This is a great look, and I think on a queen that aesthetically does not have the strongest direction, I think this is probably about as good as she looked all season.
Yeah.
Strangely enough.
Yeah.
Next up, we're going all the way into a construction challenge. Lockdown Super Shiro. The first look is Ahura once again. How was this made? That's the thing.
I mean, it's incredible. She really showcased her technical capabilities on this outfit. The fact that she made this and she didn't spend thousands of dollars having someone else spend weeks making this before the competition kind of blows my mind.
Season 2 of UK is a new kind of thesis season for us. Because if you take a look at early Drag Race and what early Drag Race was trying to go and give you as a winner, as opposed to modern Drag Race and what modern Drag Race is trying to give you as a winner, Ahura would have won early seasons of Drag Race.
Yes.
Because there was there was hardly any fashion challenges in 10 seasons, right? There's 2 construction challenges. I guess that's a lot. That's 1 per each half, but there's not a lot of fashion challenges in Drag Race in general at all.
It's interesting because it's still a strong element of the show, but it's not a strong element of the judging anymore. It's not what's getting people through, right? There's still lots of look challenges, lots of opportunities to bust out fantastic outfits. There's no shortage of that in any iteration of Drag Race at this stage. But the judges are just not as interested in passing you along on the basis of those looks. And I think that's the story of Ahura, whose post-pandemic outfits are fucking incredible. Basically, every single outfit she wore post-pandemic was a 10.
Yeah. I mean, I think we might even put them on the list here, too.
Yes.
This is fantastic. Moving on, Ellie Diamond in this exact same challenge, giving us this bubblegum princess, Katy Perry sort of inspired look. I think this is a thesis on what Ellie Diamond wants to look like.
Well, yeah, but it's also a thesis on her technical capabilities, because, again, this is a constructed outfit, and you would not guess that. If she had just worn this for any other runway, she would not have been read for filth for it not being constructed well enough.
You're true. It's true. And it does feel like it was something that was brought from home, which is also kind of crazy.
Because it encapsulates her. It's impressive that she was able to take basically, like found/supplied items and turn that into a quintessential Ellie Diamond look.
Yeah. Moving on. This is the last challenge that Ahura was in.
Yes.
I was going to say the last challenge of the season because my heart broke after this and I couldn't think anymore.
And to my point, this is the 4th episode from the 7-month break. And it is the 4th time she has appeared on our list in a row.
Yeah, this is what was it was Stoned on the Runway?
Stoned on the Runway, yeah.
Yeah, and an interesting fact I learned about this is that in the brief, it was not called Stoned on the Runway. It was called like Dripping in Diamonds or something. Like basically it was called a title like they would give somebody in the American version.
Yes.
The regional version of Drag Race. Because a lot of the queens were upset that it was called Stoned on the Runway and nobody did any pot references.
Not a one.
Which I'm kind of happy about, because if it would have been that, everybody would have did pot references and it would have got old quick.
Well, no one wants to see that much green on the runway.
That's true, except Veronica Green.
Yeah.
But this Ahura look, it's a good look. It's a weird like bodysuit with the IV thing. It's a good time.
I think we could take it off the list because I don't think it's the best of her looks by far. And I think there's a lot of other interesting things. But she does still look absolutely stunning.
A look that is not going to go off this list is going to be Bimini Bombulash in this episode.
Oof.
Who really, we even agreed whenever we talked about this, it was the only notable look.
Yes.
We have one more look we're going to talk about after this. But like she took this concept and then elevated it by dragging it in the mud. And by in the mud, I mean in the grease.
Yes. Number one, it is insane to me how absolutely stunning she looks with sores all over her face. It is, and that I think it really encapsulates this look for me. She is horrifying and grossing you out at the same time as looking completely amazing. The juxtaposition is so strong on like a conceptual level. And then a technical level to pull that off. That to me, I really do think it is my favorite look of the season. It just blows me over. Because
from a technical standpoint, what she did is she only put the sores on places that really accentuated like her contour. Mm-hmm. She didn't actually put them in an awkward place. Mm-hmm. Like she didn't put one on her forehead or on her nose or anything like that. Because everybody hates whenever they get one on their forehead or their nose. Yes. In fact, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about one that I might have between my two eyes right now. And it's bothering me.
Obviously, we're talking about her zit look. I don't think we've really spelled that out.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Actually, we're talking about her Monster Mash. but yes, we're talking about her acne couture.
And just
but it's great.
But it's also the execution on the jacket, this oversized jacket that fits her perfectly without fitting her at all.
Everything about it is it's just
and the execution of these sores on it is stunning. It's stunning. It's absolutely great. Yes. All right.
The last look we're going to talk about, and I forgot we even put it on here until we got to this point, is Lawrence Chaney's hemorrhoid look. Everyone keeps calling it a hemorrhoid look, but I've never had a hemorrhoid that looks like a crystal.
Well, no.
And I hope I never do.
No, one would not, but you get the protruding point. It's just this is drag, baby.
You're right.
Does this make any sort of sense? No,
but that's drag.
Yes.
Is it fashion?
No.
Yes.
It's not fashion, it's drag.
It's drag. You're right. And arguably, she has the most stones.
Yes.
Out of anybody.
And that should count for something.
It should count for something. You got to count the little victories sometimes, Alex, whenever you're trying to go and tally all of these things up here. Those are the looks that we think are noteworthy of the entire season. Now we got to do the difficult thing. We got to go narrow these looks down to 10 quintessential looks of season 2 of Drag Race UK. I think we could both agree that this Lawrence look is probably not going to make it there, or do you want to keep it there just in case?
I think we have to keep it there just in case because it is so far afield.
Okay, we're going to go, let's go in reverse order.
If you insist.
I do insist. Ginny Lemon surprise look. I think I want to keep it up there because I want to see how long it sticks around. I think we need to make
this list just as much as this season was quintessentially British and personality based. This list has to be about us. You know what I'm saying? It's about.
We have to get rid of 7 looks. To get to 10, we have 7.
This look this season's look list has to be about what fills us with joy.
Yes, you're right.
And this fills both of us with joy.
It kind of does. It's, yes. Okay, so Ginny Lemon, that's staying on here. Lawrence Chaney in gold. I think we have to keep it on here because I want to keep one look from Lawrence that is pre-pandemic and post-pandemic.
Well, and I do love this look. She absolutely... I don't think she actually ever looked better than she does in this look.
Yeah, the white eyebrows were such an interesting choice that worked so well. Yes. This is whenever Lawrence Chaney was at Lawrence Chaney's highest out of the entire... Like, this is peak confidence Lawrence Chaney. Ahura in Monster Mash.
I think we can lose it.
I hate you so much. I'm going to drag it to the very back.
Okay.
But I know I'm only delaying the inevitable on it, but I'm going to drag it to the back. Lawrence Chaney in Monster Mash. I want to keep it, though.
I want to keep it.
Okay, we're keeping it. Tia Coffee in Monster Mash.
Sticking around. This is not.
It's going away, okay? Veronica in Monster Mashup. I kind of want to keep it, too.
We'll keep it.
Ahura at Day at the Seaside. Yes. Like, I'm doing this. We're not just keeping it. I'm dragging it to the very top. It's happening, okay? Ellie Diamond at Day at the Seaside. I'm sorry. We got it just so we can have another little chuckle. So we can get rid of it now because we both got our little laugh out of it. And that's all we wanted. Enough. Lawrence Chaney Day at the Seaside. I think we need to keep it because I think it is the perfect contrasting look to her gold look earlier in the season.
Okay. I agree.
Taste at the Seaside.
I think we can.
You brought up a good points. I think we get rid of it.
Get rid of it. There's no salmon dragging behind her.
Pre-Ahura. Ahura. It has to stay.
Absolutely stays. Unquestionably.
It's staying. I'm not. Bimini. Prehistoric. It has to stay. It's going all the way up. It's got to stay. Taste prehistory.
I mean, I think it has to stay because, this is going to be...
Okay. We're going to keep...
This is it for her.
We're going to keep it. We're going to keep it for now. I know, but we got to take our heart out of it, Alex. We got to take that. We got to take that out of it. We got to be thinking about this this is good. We're putting this down in stone forever. Okay, and it's got to bring us joy. No, it brings me joy. Ahura again.
This Ahura look. It's one of the best.
We got to describe what it is, Alex. Ahura's constructed look with the blue things. Wonderful. I'm going to put it at the top. I want you to notice something, Alex, because you're watching my screen. There's 3 Ahura looks that have already just
but
dragged,
it makes so much
sense.
It makes a lot of sense. It really does.
Ellie Diamond in her constructed look where she's given the Katy Perry stuff. I think I'm going to keep that here. Bimini Stoned.
Yes.
It's got to stay. It has to stay. And then Lawrence Stoned. I think we're going to get rid of it.
I think we can get rid of it. I think we can.
Alex, on our first pass, we whittled it down to 13. Okay. So what we're going to do is now we're going to start from the top and work our way back. At least from the way that I dragged them over.
Yeah, what good is that going to do?
Well, it lets me talk about Ahura a little bit more. Ahura, Day at the Seaside.
Keeps.
It's staying. Okay. Ahura, prehistoric. Keeps. It's staying. Ahura, constructed look, blue outfit. Keeps. It's staying. Bimini, stoned outfit.
Keeps.
It's staying. Bimini, bacteria.
Keeps.
It's staying. Now here we go. This is where it gets hard. L.A. Diamond, constructed look. Are we going to drag it to the back or are we going to drag it to the front? Drag it to the back. We're going to drag it to the back. Okay, we're going to drag it to the back. Lawrence Chaney at the Seaside. I think it's got to stay. Okay. Veronica Monster Mashup. Babe Pig in the City.
You're going to drag
it to the
back.
Now I'm starting. I'm going to. Okay, yeah, it gets dragged to the back. You're right. Lawrence Chaney Monster Mashup. I still really like this look. We got to
keep this look. This look isn't. This brings us joy.
It does bring us joy. The same as this outfit brings us joy, the constructed look from Lawrence Chaney early in the season that brings us joy. So I think we've drawn a line in the sand is that the looks that we just put forward are not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere.
Ginny Lemon, surprise, surprise.
I think
it's not going
anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
Just like Ginny's not going anywhere. And she, people thought it was rude that Rue did not invite her back, but she walked out. That was a choice that she made. But I
didn't want to see her either.
Because she just never goes away in our hearts. And she's back next week, and I'm looking forward to it.
I don't know if I'm looking forward to it. You break my heart. I remember that, Alex. I remember when you break. Okay, so we have 4 looks left.
Yes.
And we have to eliminate. We have to keep one. Let's look at it that way. Instead of, we have to keep one look. Prehistoric Taste. Okay. Monster Mash Ahura. Okay. Ellie Diamond, constructed look, looking like Katy Perry. And Veronica Monster Mash.
I honestly think we have to keep either Taste or Ellie here.
Monster Mash from Veronica Green is gone.
Yes.
She'll have her chance to get on this list when she gets to complete a
She
whole
will.
season of Drag Race. Okay, so we got to pick out of this. So we have Ahura in Monster Mashup. I will pull back.
Yeah, you gotta pull back.
I will take that away because unfortunately, Ahura is a victim of her own greatness.
Yes.
Because that would be a 4 out of 10 looks would have been Ahura's looks, which isn't really surprising. So we got to go prehistoric taste, or we got to go Ellie.
I mean,
and unfortunately, I think Ellie wins.
I think Ellie wins too. I enjoy it more. It brings me more joy, and it's very quintessentially Ellie. Is this quintessentially Taste, this prehistoric look? No, I don't think that it is.
No.
No. So I don't think it belongs on the list ultimately. And ultimately, I think that means that Taste isn't on this list.
Taste is not on this list. We have representation from 3 of the top 4 and no Taste.
No Taste.
So we have 3 Ahura looks. We have 2 Bimini looks. We have 3 Lawrence looks. 1 Jenny look, and Ellie Diamond.
Okay.
That's the top.
So now...
You know what those looks are.
What was the last thing you said?
So, Alex, last thing I'm going to say before we move on from the looks. What is your top look of the season, then?
Oh.
We've never normally done this, but what is your top look of the season? Normally we give like a list, and that's it, but I think this is interesting. What is your top look of the season?
Bimini's pimples.
Stoned Bimini? Yep. Legitimately, for me... Oh, it's so hard to pick. For me, it's between 2 looks. It's between Ahura's Day at the Seaside, I'm a Bag of Chips, and Prehistoric. I think, ultimately, I got to go with Prehistoric.
I mean, for you, that makes a lot of sense.
It doesn't make as much sense, because I don't like, and traditionally we don't like, body looks in general.
Yes.
So the fact that Ahura can make a body look that both of us agree is absolutely stunning, I think that is incredibly notable.
I know, but you bought how many 3D printers over this pandemic? This look is all for you, baby.
At least 2. That's very, very true. Let's go on to our last order of business, Alex, because our last order of business is we have to decide on who we are going to pick to win Drag Race
I'm going to put
UK.
some heat under this right away. And say that I've already given the reasons why Tace is not going to win. Because, A, we've just determined she has no top looks for this season. And as a personality queen, she does not stack up against either Bimini or Lawrence. And so, like, who is she beating in this top 4 in any category? And I just don't think she's really beating anybody. So I don't think Tace is in the running here. Now, the next big thing... This is harder for me, but with the trajectory that this queen is on, I don't think she can win this competition.
Okay.
And that's Lawrence Chaney.
Let's just go over a couple things that are happening in the world in general in terms of opening up the scope of what we're looking at in the show. A lot of the social media things that are popping up here and the reactions that are popping up here all seem to be incredibly one-sided.
Okay.
We are in the official Drag Race UK Twitter page, and I'm going to give you some numbers. Now, these are kind of in line with the numbers that I was seeing before, but aren't quite there yet. So there's a couple of weird things in here. First up, people who have liked Team Tace. That is 8.2k likes on Team Tace, 6.4k likes on Team Lawrence, 2k likes on Team Ellie, and 39.3k likes on Team Bimini.
Wow.
On the list. So when I was looking at early on, after the episode aired, I wanted to go and see, I wanted to take like an initial sort of feeling on what I saw. Unanimously, it seemed the majority of people are Team Bimini across the board. Following that, it seems like there's a lot of people who are Lawrence. There's also a lot of people who are calling for like a Bimini Lawrence, sort of split win.
No. Nobody wants a split win. Get out of here.
Bimini is head over heels above everybody else, and then it's Lawrence after that, and then it's Tace. And legitimately,
that's just because she's trade.
Well, definitely, but so is Bimini. Not to,
Well, I don't know about that.
Bimini is more than just trade, but Bimini also is a very attractive person. Let's not take that out of the factor.
Okay, we understand what you're attracted to now. Those numbers are crazy though.
Yes, those numbers are crazy, but there are other numbers. So on the official Drag Race UK BBC page, let's go on likes there. 35K on Tace, 28K on Lawrence, 12.4K on Ellie, and 82.6K on Bimini. The crazy thing that I see in the evolution from when I was first looking at it to now that a lot more people have had a chance to watch it, is that given the time for it to breathe a little bit, Bimini has gone and ran away with it. Lawrence, I think, is the one who has been hit the worst by it.
I mean, honestly, this makes so much sense. This is what I was just saying. I think her momentum is so negative at this point. And I don't mean like people are like I don't think people dislike Lawrence, but
I do.
I think it's more that like it's just like it's not fun watching someone roll down a hill as much as it is watching them kind of mount that hill, you know? And the story of Lawrence was that she really rocketed to the top of the mountain in the pre-COVID season, and then has basically just been hanging on by like, you know, the grip of her fingers in this back half.
Yes. I agree with you that is what's happening. But what you have to remember is people generally only remember the last thing they saw. Recency bias is a huge factor in everything.
Absolutely.
Not a lot of people are very good at taking a step back and looking at the big picture and admitting that they were wrong. The thing with Lawrence is, if you look at Lawrence's track record in the last 1 or 2 episodes, it's been incredibly negative.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about like, you know, negative down. I mean like Lawrence has been going off on Ellie. Lawrence has been bitter.
That's
Lawrence
true.
has been all this. And that is what people are remembering right now, as opposed to Bimini, who in that same span of episodes has done nothing but hugely succeed, hugely come forward, and hugely go and show the world what kind of queen that they are.
I think so. Well, but it's the same thing, right? It's Lawrence has nothing but negative momentum since the COVID break. And Bimini has nothing but positive momentum since the COVID break. We have watched Bimini climb to the top of the mountain, and we've watched Lawrence fall from that grace. And so to me, it makes a lot of sense that Bimini's on the top. Which isn't making sense is that basically Tace is in the second position here, because as we've discussed, like what is like by what metric are people gauging that? I find it confusing. I do.
Well, to me, it's weird though, because it comes down to what are people looking at from a winner of Drag Race. And because we've had so many series of shows and we've had so many seasons of Drag Race, there is no concise, this is what we are looking for in a winner that we have from the show. It's become so muddied. Now, at this point, you have to ask yourself, is like, what do you want? Who do you want as a winner? Do you want somebody who does incredibly well in the show and is able to do the show very well? Or do you want a personality who is very entertaining and made the show entertaining all the way through? Because I think that is the big thing about Tace. Tace is incredibly talented and incredibly engaging, but, you know, maybe Tace isn't a singer. Maybe Tace isn't the best dancer. You know, maybe on those metrics that the show is using as a ruler to go and measure you, she's not quite there. But in terms of being able to go and jump through a screen, in terms of being able to go narrate a show, in terms of keeping people engaged in what is going on, she's a head over heels above and beyond better than just about everybody else.
That might be true. I would say Lawrence does give her a run for her money, because Lawrence does come up a lot in those
for sure
those interview
but
segments.
Again, you are looking at it from a lot more further back.
But this is what I have to do.
A lot of people have a problem.
This is what I have to do.
No, I know this is what. Yes, and I understand this is what we have to do. What I'm saying is that the majority of people, and by no means is this a democratic vote on who's going to win the show, but a lot of people are basing their off the Lawrence bandwagon on the fact that she was just so negative and bitter in the last 2 episodes.
I mean, I get it.
That is what I saw in comments.
I get it. I mean, like, honestly, before we launched into the numbers game here, I was having a discussion about how the fact I just don't think you can give the crown to Lawrence. I just don't think that you can.
Yeah, I know.
But one more thing I want to look at before we really kind of narrow it down, because basically we're down to 2 queens now, because, I mean, well, no, we're taking Lawrence off the list. I've kind of discredited Tace, but I don't know. But let's look at these power rankings. Let's see what this element spins into this discussion.
what I like about our power rankings is it becomes a subconscious factor because we really don't think about it. Like, we think about them during the episode, but we never think about it overall. We don't have a tally list that says, hey, you know what? This person won this many times. Like, we're not trying to add numbers up. Sometimes whenever we end up looking at it, exactly, until the end. And then we end up looking at it and we go, man, you know what? Subconsciously, we were thinking this, but we never actually said it with words. So, Alex, what have you concluded looking at our numbers?
Well, it's a tale of two queens from a numbers perspective here, and I don't think there's going to be any shocks. But the number one queen, actually, you want to take a guess at our number one power ranking queen?
No. Actually, on this, I don't even know on this show.
It's Ahura.
Oh.
Yes. Clocking with the most points by, I mean, basically, Ahura and Lawrence are number one and number two, and they basically outscore everyone by a factor of 3.
Country mile.
Yeah, country mile. So Ahura in the clear lead with Lawrence just behind. And then way back in third place, we have Ellie. And those are our tops. So I don't know that helps us at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I think it just really goes and shows sort of how surprising it was for Ahura to go to win the episode that she went on.
I think if she had made it all the way to the finale, I think there would be a much tighter race than there is right now. I think she would have done quite well in the top 4. I do. I think if it was Ahura here instead of Tace, I think it would be closer between her and Bimini than it is between Tace and Bimini.
Yeah, I can see that, but I'm wondering how much Ahura would... I mean, I guess that's a whole alternate world, though, because that would have been an alternate world where, like... No, never mind. It wouldn't have been that much of an alternate world.
No.
Because it wouldn't have adjusted all that much.
No,
it just would have been Tace getting
despite the fact that Ahura is
episode.
kind of a bitch, and she was bitchy, and that's why she ranks so high in our power rankings, but she always owned that bitchiness, right? It's not the kind of bitchiness that I think people are going to find a big distaste for. It's not the type of negativity that's going to turn people off the way that Lawrence's negativity, that really classic big girl curse negativity, that really being down on herself, beating herself up, which makes her perform badly. And when she does lash out at people, it's very inappropriate. That kind of negative energy puts a distaste in people's mouth. But Ahura never lashed out at someone inappropriately. She was perhaps bitchy, but everyone enjoys a bitchy queen at the end of the day. And so I think she would have been performing better here. I think the fact that Bimini is the clear favorite to win here makes a lot of sense to me, because I don't think Lawrence can. I love Lawrence. She was my favorite for a long time, and we both loved her.
At a certain point, Alex, I remember as we were podcasting, you just kind of like just stopped, and in the most earnest moment I've heard you in our discussions, you just went, I just really want Lawrence to win.
Yeah. Well,
just like exasperated.
That first half of the season, it was always interesting with her because she was always very vulnerable, incredibly vulnerable. And that's what made her so compelling. But in this back half of the season, the energy just turned in a way that has not been as pleasant to watch, because you know she can do better. And it's really frustrating when you're watching someone do poorly because of their own mental blocks, when you know they could be exceeding at these challenges and they have all the tools to be winning and they're not.
I think that really to distill what you just said, people enjoy watching a bitch, but they do not enjoy watching somebody who is bitter.
Yes.
And I think that is the distinction there, because they were in a little tandem team there, Ahura and Lawrence, because like that Lawrence downfall in the audience's point of view happened at the exact same time. It happened all over the Comedy Challenge in Ellie's decision, which means like Ellie is totally pulling the strings on here, but Ellie is an absolute non-factor in this.
No one thinks Ellie should win.
Nobody thinks Ellie should win.
I don't think she should win.
I don't think so either. So we have to ask ourselves a question, Alex, is what do we want? Do we want to be right? Do we want to go with our heart?
I mean,
I guess that's it.
It's hard, but I honestly think that for me, as much as I did want Lawrence to win, I don't think you can crown her, and I don't think I want her crowned at this stage. It doesn't add up for me. You can't give someone a win based on the work they did in the first half of the season. She has literally done nothing in the back half of the season to earn the crown. And that's just a fact. I mean, like, I don't think she should have gone home at any point, because I do think all of her attributes, got her through, but by the skin of her teeth. And I don't think someone should win based off of just getting by in the back half of the season by the skin of their teeth. And Bimini, I'm here for it. I'm here for a Bimini win. It might be the only thing that really makes sense, and that's why it's such a landslide in her favor. Because I think Lawrence, she lost it. It was in her hands, and she let it go.
Now, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page just to kind of get an overview on everything. And there's something really insane that's happening here. They don't have the episode 9 information in the contestants' progress yet. And Tace has 3 bottoms and will have 4 bottoms when the 9th episode gets put in there. So survived 4 lip syncs and then made it to the end, which is crazy for anybody to have
nuts. But
unprecedented.
Honestly, it solidifies in my mind all the more that she should not be going home with the crown.
Yes, and Alex, the break happened at what episode?
So between
again?
4 and 5.
Between 4 and 5. So 5 is when they came back, right? So Lawrence wins the first episode when they come back.
A double win, I believe, right?
And then Lawrence, according to episode 5, Lawrence wins episode 5.
But so does Bimini.
Here. Oh, yes, because that's Bing Bang Bomb.
Yes, and their whole team wins.
Exactly.
Oh, and that's Tace's only win.
Yes, it's wild. So Lawrence Chaney was in the bottom or safe for the entire time of the COVID break. If we take out the concept of the overall win.
She struggled in Ruru Vision. It was not an easy time for her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If it was judged individually, I don't know if she would
not have
survived. She might have been put into the bottom. So this might be a bottom 2 thing. Either way, it's really crazy. But if we look at Bimini, episode 5, coming back from COVID break, she wins. Wins episode 6, Snatch Game. Is safe. Wins episode 8. Wins episode 9.
I mean, to me, it makes the most sense to crown her the winner. I think she had her coming out party post-COVID. She looks the best. She makes it, top looks. Her attitude is fantastic. Like, it just makes, to me, it's the only win that makes sense. As much as I would have loved to live in a world where Lawrence won, but you know what world that is? That is the world in which COVID did not happen. And we would all love to live in that world. But unfortunately, we rolled the 1.
There's an alternate timeline where COVID never happened.
Yes. And in that timeline, I think Lawrence wins. But that's just not our reality.
Probably. So, officially, Sissy That Talk endorses Bimini Bon Boulash to win RuPaul's Drag Race UK Season 2.
Along with literally everyone else. Probably our least controversial call ever.
Well, definitely. And I mean, it also makes me kind of step back what I was saying before is like, what are you looking for in a winner? And how that's... Because objectively, Bimini did the best for half of the show and won half of the show and is probably now on track to go and win because she won the competition.
She did. That's what she did.
There we go, guys. That's on that bombshell, that's our coverage on Drag Race UK.
Almost closing the book. We have a whole other episode to go through, though.
We do, but I don't think we're going to be spending a lot of time on that. It's going to be like, here's a winner. They did chicken dinner. They did this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That's going to be... It's going to be a bog standard episode. Not really going to be much to talk about. So, join us next week for the last Drag Race UK. Yeah.
And here I am, and with Queens to watch for next week, I have Apple Pie. Apple Pie really has to step up its game and be interesting now.
Alex, the best thing about there being so many episodes of Drag Race is the fact that we have something to talk about every single week.
You love talking to me.
That's the best part of it. Well, I like talking about you when we have something to talk about. Other than that,
Whatever. We devised this whole system in which we can spend the next 33,000 weeks watching Planet of the Apes movies. So join us for our new podcast.
I'm talking to somebody else, not you.
Ape Shit Talk.
velvetvalhalla@gmail.com is the email address. Email us with your thoughts on why you think that Bimini Bon Boulash should win, because obviously Bimini Bon Boulash should win the show. I mean, it hurts us to say. Why does you know what?
What?
Lawrence Chaney can still be the 4th place Rob Queen.
That's true.
There's still a chance.
That would be the best case scenario, I think.
velvetvalhalla@gmail.com. That's what we got to say. That's what we got to do. We still got 7 queens to talk about on the American version. We'll continue doing that. Alex, final thoughts.
I mean, I don't know. Let's. I already said it. Apple Pie, step up your game.
Okay, well, I'm not going to take your tagline, so...
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And everyone out there in podcast land, remember to be kind to one another. Black Lives Matter. wear your mask, and, as always, soft love.